This is a self-playing presentation about the Emotional Intelligence Questionnaire, which is published by MySkillsProfile. In the next 15 minutes, I will cover the purpose of the test, some different applications for it, how the test was developed, and the model of emotional skills and abilities that lies behind the test. We will look at what the scales measure, how an individual's responses are transferred into standardized scores, and the design and contents of the computer-generated feedback report. In the final part of the presentation, I will summarize the technical properties of the instrument. The EIQ16 assessment test has two purposes. First, at the individual level, the purpose of the instrument is to assess a person's emotional skills, style and abilities, and give them suggestions about how to improve their performance and reach their potential. Second, at the corporate or organizational level, the purpose of the instrument is to benchmark the emotional skills and competencies of a group of people, to, for example, help understand where their strengths and weaknesses lie, and to help design learning and development programs. The test is suitable for different applications in recruitment, selection and development. Here are some examples. In selection, the test provides a framework of competencies to compare candidates against, and use as the foundation for competency-based interviews. In assessment centers, the EIQ profile provides information about a candidate's emotional abilities and style, to put alongside information from intra- and group exercises. In executive education programs, the instrument will help students to understand and reflect on their strengths and development needs. In coaching, the interpretive report provides a structure for the coach and client, to jointly explore the client's social and emotional style and skills. And in team building, sharing profiles will help the team to understand the range of emotional skills and competencies that the team possesses, and it will help reveal gaps in the team's capabilities. Finally, the data from a group of completed profiles will provide metrics about a group's emotional abilities and style. The EIQ16 was developed in the following way. The work program started with a review of the literature on emotional intelligence. Different measures and models of emotional intelligence were examined, and the Mayer-Solovey-Caruso 4-branch framework of emotional ability was selected as a conceptual model for the development of the test. The Mayer-Solovey-Caruso 4-branch model is described in the next slide. A trial questionnaire was developed with 16 emotional ability scales, and an impression management measure. The trial questionnaire was made available as a free test on the Internet. There followed an iterative process of analysis and revision, until the questionnaire demonstrated acceptable internal consistency reliability. Norms for the questionnaire were then developed based on incidental samples, and data on construct and criterion validity was collected and analyzed. The EIQ16 questionnaire was designed around the concept model of emotional intelligence, first developed by John Mayer, Peter Solovey, and David Caruso. This model of emotional intelligence has 4 key branches. In the EIQ16, these are named as follows. First, reading people. According to Mayer et al., this covers the ability to recognize emotions in oneself and others, as well as in objects, art, stories, music, and other phenomena. Second, using emotions. This is the ability to generate, use and feel emotion, to communicate feelings, and employ them in thinking, and decision-making. Third, understanding emotions. This means being able to appreciate emotional information, and to realize how emotions combine, and progress through relationship transitions. Fourth, managing emotions. This describes the ability to be open to feelings, and to control them in oneself and others, in order to advance personal understanding and growth. It is important to note that the EIQ16 is a behavioral style instrument, whereas the Mayer-Solovey-Caruso emotional intelligence test is an ability-based test. This table defines what 8 of the 16 EIQ scales measure. These scales cover the reading people and using emotions branches of emotional intelligence. You will find more detailed descriptions of these scales, and how to interpret scale scores, in the user manual. This table is in the same format as the previous one. It shows what the remaining 8 scales measure. These cover the key factors, understanding emotions, and managing emotions. These 2 tables show that the EIQ provides good coverage of the emotional intelligence domain. Consult Chapter 3 of the user manual, to deepen your understanding of the scales. This is an example of the more detailed scale descriptions that you will find in the user manual. This table shows how to interpret high, moderate, and low scores on the scale that measures how far a person is in touch with their feelings and emotions. It gives short descriptions of what different scores mean and examples of the scale items. For example, high scorers can be described as people who are in touch with their feelings and emotions, and notice when their mood changes. People with average scores tend to be moderately aware of their feelings and emotions. They can also be described as people who are aware of how they are feeling some of the time. By contrast, low scorers pay little attention to their feelings and emotions. The EIQ uses the standard 10, Sten, scoring approach. To help users and test takers understand what different Sten scores mean, the EIQ interpretive model breaks the Sten range into 5 categories. The meaning of each of the categories is defined, using red, amber, green traffic light assessment ratings, descriptions of emotional competency level, and development implications. This slide illustrates the approach. For example, a Sten score of 8 in the green area indicates that the person appears to possess level 5 emotional competencies, which they should make the most of and exploit. A Sten score of 5 appearing in the amber area tends to suggest that the person has level 3 emotional competencies, which they should endeavor to work on. A Sten score of 3 appearing in the red area suggests that is very likely that the person has level 1 emotional competencies, which they should improve. The EIQ feedback report is written in the second person, self-help style, and is a mixture of text and graphics. The computer-generated feedback report has 6 sections. Section 1 gives a brief introduction to the questionnaire, explaining what the instrument measures, and how the scoring system works. Section 2 provides concise descriptions of what each of the 16 scales measure. Section 3 provides an executive summary of the results of the assessment, covering the test taker's overall emotional competence, their scores on the 4 branches of emotional intelligence, and impression management. Section 4 provides scorecards for each of the 4 branches of emotional intelligence, and summarizes the potential implications for work performance, using the SHL Universal Competency Framework. Section 5 gives guidance on development, with practical tips and suggestions for performance improvement. Finally, there is a summary profile chart, covering all the test takers' scores. The feedback report has 4 scorecards, summarizing the test takers' scores, on the 4 factors of emotional intelligence. This slide shows what the Reading People scorecard comprises. There is a graphic profile chart showing the respondents' Sten score on Reading People, and their scores on the scales that make up this branch of emotional intelligence. There are short narrative descriptions of the test taker's skill level, and emotional competencies. This is followed by statements, which indicate how the respondent's emotional intelligence is likely to impact on their management competencies. Each scorecard covers 2 of SHL's Grade 8 competencies. For example, the respondent in this example scorecard comes out as having level 3 competence in the Reading People factor of EI. This is likely to have a positive impact on their ability to carry out the interacting and presenting, and supporting and cooperating work roles effectively. The final section of the feedback report gives generic advice on how a person can improve their emotional intelligence. The report then provides some practical tips and recommendations on things to do to improve emotional competencies. These cover the 4 branches of emotional intelligence. This slide shows the suggestions and recommendations that are presented for the Reading People factor. The EIQ16 was designed to meet the standards of a modern psychometric test. The questionnaire has a median scale internal consistency reliability of 0.73, in the range defined as adequate, by the EFPA review model. The median correlation between the EI branch scales, and self-assessed job performance, was 0.25. The median correlation between the primary scales, and marker variables from the International Personality Item Pool, was 0.62. The instrument is supplied with one set of international norms, based on a very large sample of 6,000 respondents. The majority of respondents came from the USA, Canada, the UK, and Australia. Although there were statistically significant differences in the sample related to gender, age, ethnic origin, and nationality, the observed differences are very small. This indicates that there is no need for separate norms related to gender, age, ethnic origin, or nationality. The EIQ16 has been reviewed by the British Psychological Society Psychological Testing Centre. The review evaluated the test as a cost-effective measure of emotional intelligence, with reasonable reliability statistics, extensive information on norms, and a good report output and good, easy-to-use online administration. The review also stated that while there was acceptable evidence for criterion validity, more information was needed on the construct validity of the assessment. If you are interested in using the EIQ16, but want to know more about it, reading the user manual and having a look at a sample report are a good place to start. You can download these documents using the links below, and you can also get them from our website. Thank you for your interest in the test.